Am I crazy to be this bullish on reselling? I don't think I am. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Commonwealth cabin. Welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. I've got a great video for you today. We're going to talk about the massive changes that are going on right now in reselling. Behind the scenes, unfolding right there in front of us. Some of it is stressful for folks like me who hate change, and especially the rapidity of change. It's crazy. I'm going to talk about all these issues, actually ask for your opinion here today to see which ones of these things are going to be long-term pluses for resellers, which ones may be negatives. Kind of go through the whole gamut today, and we've got a bunch of great sales. Let's go take a look. And I just quick jotted down a list of all the stuff that is either here or almost here. And some of the thoughts that I've had, the ramifications, you know, starting with stuff like AI, which, I don't know, I kind of wish, maybe there's some of you out there like me, wish we just put that genie back in the bottle, but you never know. I mean, I can see some serious pluses from it and some serious negatives. This is a G-Shock Casio. I love picking these up. I told my wife, I said, I'll stop wearing the bracelets if you let me start wearing this watch. She's like, I don't know if I like that one, but paid $5 at the 100-mile yard sale. Sold for $34.95. No new battery, nothing working on it. So not too bad. But G-Shocks can make you some money out there if you find them. Love it. You know, speaking of AI, and this isn't really the topic of today, but that was one of the things on my list. A lot of those changes kind of were taking place behind the scenes and causing some trouble, I think, especially, 6-8 months ago, and the Vero stuff and all that stuff that was going on. And I've got some major pluses on my list today. I've got some negatives. As a matter of fact, when I'm looking at this thing and talking to people and getting reactions, you know, there's a lot of folks out there. It is the middle of the summer and sales are slow and they're saying it's the end. I think I did a video about the reseller bubble bursting and all that. In reality, I said I was bullish on these things and bullish on quite a bit of stuff, actually, even though there are some negatives out there. I think in some ways, because people look back and they talk about the golden age of reselling when, you know, maybe it was right around the end of the 90s through 2005 or so, and people were just crushing it out there. I actually think right now is a better time to resell than ever before, in spite of all the difficulties and a little bit more headaches and cross-posting and all those things. And it's because we have serious options for the first time. And I think that those options are manifesting themselves in ways that are beneficial to the seller on all kinds of platforms. Now, I have a bunch of these, actually. I have some listed over on Dibdit. The Dick Tracy and Breathless Mahoney bought at the Webster, bought a giant lot of them. PVC figures. I'm going to just show them to you here and go back there and dig in the bin. And I haven't sold too many on eBay, but we have sold some. And they sold for $12.30 plus shipping. Just in the eBay cave here and grabbed out another one from the bin over there. These have been selling like crazy. The Good and the Beautiful History Year 1 course book. One sold for $24.95 plus shipping. It was actually $29.95 plus shipping, and that has turned out to be an amazing buy. I paid $25, I believe, for all of it. Might have been $20. And we've already gotten the profit over $300 and still have a ton to go. So I have talked about it and was criticized by some folks for talking about how all these different reselling platforms are going to eventually be good for resellers, even for the resellers that don't use them. And that may be you. My guess is a lot of you out there only sell on one platform. I'm curious. Tell me down below if you sell on, just say I sell on X platforms. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to list them. But let me know down in the comments if you're a multiple platform seller. I've never wanted to be, but I see the strategic advantage in it. And let's face it, look what they're doing out there. There is a competition for resellers to some degree at this point. And obviously eBay is still the big dog. It will remain the big dog for a long time. This is excluding Amazon, of course, which, by the way, if there's one platform that is really hit and miss, plus and minus, for individual small-time resellers right now, it's Amazon. There's a lot of interesting changes and thought processes over there that are going to affect people in different ways. Let me know if you're an Amazon seller, your recent experience. Uh-oh. I see some dogs out there. And a new puppy. That better not be our puppy. So let's just look at this now. You've got, of course, Mercari made that decision not too long ago to go 0 seller fees, and we can argue about the pluses and minuses of that, but it was a big change for sure. What am I doing? I'm not even pulling the right item. I'm looking for an ET thing, and I'm thinking about how dirty this is and how embarrassing it is, so I'm pulling the wrong item. This is the one down here, and I really got to clean that one. That sold, this ET pin. Haven't sold one in a while, but this one sold. This is one of our best sellers, this ET and drag, I call it. $7.19 plus shipping. Now, of course, you've seen Depop make the same decision, and you can argue that that's a desperation move. You could argue that that was for Mercari. I don't really know, to be honest with you, but I can tell you there is a movement that is slowly helping out resellers. And while eBay hasn't, lowered a fee or done anything like that, I do think that this kind of pressure from other reselling platforms can at least maybe slow increases or put them on a halt for a while, which would be awesome. I think it's a really good decision. I mean, well, I'll get into this part in just a second, but other platforms out there, it seems, I may be wrong, are competing for us. And I think there's all kinds of factors behind it. I think the advent of cross-listing and cross-posting is also really, really key. And now that people have the ability to cross-post onto all these platforms, whether you take advantage of it or not, and that's entirely up to you and your model, it may not work for all kinds of folks. I actually have a kind of a hybrid system, which I don't really want to get into now. But I think that out there alone and the ease of it and the increasing ease of it as these cross-listing platforms are competing with them, not with themselves, but with each other as well, is also making these platforms more focused on bringing buyers to their platform, because these items can be sold on any platform now, and oftentimes are listed, the same exact item listed on 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. Now, I do cross-list, but I do not cross-list every single item. There's a strategy behind it, and there are some things that are only listed on certain places. And I certainly see the benefit, though, of even the folks that are doing all this and cross-listing, how it affects all of us. So, Hamburglar, this little tray is not something normally I'd sell, to be honest with you. It's not worth that much, but it's cool, and I decided to put it up here. I almost put it over on Dibbed It, but I decided to put it over here. $10.95 plus shipping. I listed it in spite of the fact it doesn't quite meet our criteria, because I thought a viewer might buy it, but I don't see a message on it. But it is a repeat buyer, so Joshua, thank you. If you're a viewer, I assume you are. And I was hoping that somebody out there in the audience might like something like this. And I loved Hamburglar. It was my favorite. I do not remember those trays when I was a kid. When did they stop those trays? I wonder how old that thing is. Y'all know? How many of y'all remember the trays? I don't remember those trays. I remember the styrofoam containers for the Egg McMuffins and all that. I remember the ashtrays and all the stuff like that. I remember the playlands that don't seem to exist anymore. But I don't remember those trays. There you go. I told you there would be more of these sales. We sold 3 separate sales here. $14.95 a piece on those. The Big Book of History Stories, Year 3. So speaking of growing up in the 80s, that reminded me of something, so we'll interrupt our conversation and talk about that for a second. I know there's always new folks that come to this channel, but one of the things that I try to do now is if I ever take on a sponsor, promote things like we have links over at CommonwealthPicker.com for American Bubble Boy and for my reseller Genie and for all kinds of stuff that you can get a discount. Whenever I do that, I try to make sure there's something in it for me, in it for the company, and in it for the folks who watch this show. That's kind of the way I like to do things, with a couple exceptions. And I've talked about that before, Rollo Printer being one of them, because they don't offer you a discount. So I had a company who I've talked about before, but I don't often talk about, offer to send me t-shirts because they love the t-shirts that I wear, and I've bought from them. They've sent me some in the past, 80stees.com. I said, hey, that's great, thanks, But is there anything you could do for the folks that are watching? And they said, how about this? We'll send you 3 t-shirts a month. You wear it, you talk about 80stees.com, and then you can give away a t-shirt. I was like, well, that sounds like a plan. So I got this one from them, speaking of the 80s. Right there. And if you want this one, leave a comment below and tell me which one of these, if you can tell by the font, and I think you can, which one of these was your favorite show back in the 80s, or if you weren't around back then, if you've ever seen any of those, just put that in the comments. We'll choose a winner from that. Maybe put I love the 80s in there as well, and we'll run a program and I'll announce the winner. And then I'll give you the contact information to get this shirt right here in your size and pass it on to them. Maybe they'll even do some different shirts here coming up as well. So thank you to 80stees.com. I appreciate the t-shirts, and somebody else out there is going to get one too. There's probably going to be a code. I'm going to do this 3 times a month, twice on this channel, once on the Commonwealth Picker channel, and give away a t-shirt. Usually I'll just mention it for about 10-15 seconds and give you the opportunity to get it, but I wanted to thank them. You know me and these tees. I love them. So anytime I can get a free tee, I'll definitely do that. There'll be a link below and probably a code, probably code Commonwealth for 35% off. So we appreciate them. Now the next item I've actually already shipped. It is a Damn It doll, so I don't have the right one here. But I'm going to show it to you right here in the picture. We sold it over on Dibda.com. It was our deal of the day, and Cryptographic got it. It was a breast cancer awareness doll, so we decided to put it over there for $5, give somebody a deal. Is it Cryptographic bought it? Yeah. And we're doing deals of the day. I don't have one for today. Maybe I can put one up here in a minute. We've got a few. I think I put 2 over there the other day. So maybe one of them is left. Smokey Bear and the Noids we put together, speaking of the 80s. I might look around here and put another deal of the day over there. And that's one thing. It's a little farther down on my list, but the community aspect of reselling is key. And I've seen this in Facebook groups for years, where people get together and create Facebook groups. There's one about cassette tapes. There's one about hats that I follow, that they're buying and selling in there. There's no infrastructure to do it, so it can be risky. And so that's why I've moved over to District to do this kind of stuff. And it has been growing like crazy lately. And that is an option. And talk about reduced fees. You know, we're doing the shopcommons.net, and we're doing 8% fees over there. 8% only on the sale portion, not on the shipping portion. So there's options. They're not all going to sell like eBay sells, but at least there is a landscape of options out there for people to choose what is right for them. Henry's got a friend over here and playing that new NCAA football game, and they're excited about it. So if you hear them in there, that's what it is. So another Black Rifle Grenade coffee mug. And this one sold for $20.95 plus shipping. And as I've said before, I don't tell people or even really push and say, hey, you need to be doing this as a reseller or this. Because the more and more I do this on social media, the more and more I realize there are so many people who do reselling in completely different ways, that there are just some ways of doing things that just don't fit other people. And I love hearing your experiences out there, but I have seen people transition lately to a model that works for them much easier because there are options, or even reevaluate reselling altogether, whether it's the sourcing side or the selling side. Of course, we've talked about folks before, and we talk about this more on the Trash to Cash podcast, because this is really more about static selling over here than live. It's why I don't mention a lot of the live stuff that we do, unless I'm promoting a show or something. But uh-oh, I better let these dogs out. You want out? One of them wants out. The other one wants to sleep. But, you know, reselling for some people has evolved into predominantly live selling. And I think there's 2 groups of people that works for best. People that have sourcing methods, whether it's massive buyouts of storage units, those seem to be the ones that are best off doing live selling and selling in bulk. Massive amounts of selling and just running through stuff, taking a lower amount, and then maybe cherry picking one niche that they want to sell on eBay or something like that. And of course, we've talked about Flip the World Texas before on here. And the other part is the static sellers who predominantly pick like I do, who have a social media following. So Whatnot is just not for everybody. Matter of fact, not only is it not for everybody, it's actually for a very small percentage of people. Unless you're really, really willing to do something different, it's not going to work for most pickers who pick the way we traditionally do. But there are now other emerging options out there. Of course, there's all the ones we've always talked about. TikTok, what am I talking about? Etsy and Depop and Mercari, and yes, even Bonanza for you haters out there. I sold something on Bonanza today. I'll put it on the next video. And of course, I've, introduced something where I thought was missing in this space, which is reseller to resale wholesale. Not these places where you got to spend $10,000 to wholesale merchandise, just on a much smaller scale to help people who have too much inventory, who might be storage auction buyers, but they are no way they're getting on alive and they got to sell things off in bulk, and to help folks who can't get out and source. There's just so many options that I can't help but be excited about this, even if sales are down for a day or two or a week or a month, because there are so many cool things coming, new platforms, competition among these platforms. Am I crazy to be this bullish on reselling? I don't think I am, because I was sitting at KFC the other day with my boy. He loves Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we went in there and we ate, and there was not one person that came in there and ordered in there while we were there, and it was dinner time. I'm like, this is weird. But the same DoorDash person came in there 3 times. 3 times while we sat there. And people, of course, going through the drive-thru. I'm like, this is a world now where convenience is valued over almost everything. And people are willing to go on and do their shopping for all kinds of stuff online, almost everybody, and not go out and do their shopping at regular brick and mortars. That is a giant plus for folks like me and you. And it's not uncommon now for people to buy almost everything that they're buying, even groceries, online. And I do think that it would be foolish to ignore the fact that buying has also become social at this point, and you see it all over the place. I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again here. These weren't up there very long at all. These American Eagle jeans, very, very quick seller. For $1, I paid for them $21.95 plus shipping. And I've mentioned this before in previous videos, and some of it I don't particularly like. Like, I'll start with this part, the social selling part of it. Of course, there's Whatnot and District and all that stuff, but there's before that it was YouTube. I knew people that were doing YouTube auctions forever ago. I considered doing it back then, but man, what a headache, because the infrastructure wasn't there. But then you're seeing these Chinese companies on TikTok and these really selling really cheap merchandise, cheap in probably multiple ways. And I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest with you, for all kinds of reasons. But, TikTok Shop has really, and boy, you saw them do that, and you started to see other people adopt this strategy. And it is annoying to some folks. I get that, especially if you're scrolling on your phone through whatever and just watching stuff and you don't want to constantly be sold to. I get that, but it's definitely for the younger crowd. It is an outlet for them to have some kind of social interaction. As sad as this might be for the kids who grew up in the 80s here, where we just drove our bikes and, rode them into somebody's yard, and we hung out all day and we spent outside and, spent all day outside, and we drank out of the hose and all those things, and traveled all over the city or the town we were in, and nobody knew where the heck we were at. Kids today don't live like that. And as much as I wish they did, as they grow up, they're used to their social networks being not in person. They're used to them being on the computer or the phone at this point. And I think that resellers and platforms are figuring out how to tap into this, of course, with the exception of eBay. They're not quite there yet, but that stuff is interesting. I don't think it's going to hurt the static seller that much, to be honest with you, which is a good thing for those who want to stay out there and just do that, because a lot of resellers will start to put their time and effort into live selling, which means it withdraws them from the static selling on big platforms like eBay and leaves space for people to do it that way and the way they want to do it. Speaking of doing it the way you want to do it, Mary bought plans for the Commonwealth picker shipping table so she could get organized over there on CommonwealthPicker.com. I just saw on my list, actually, another one of these. I'm not going to go in and get it, but another one of these sold. $21.95 plus shipping, and I heard some alerts. And it was another wholesale lot that just sold for me on shopcommons.net, which is awesome. I'm not going to show those in here because sometimes we just got to get them shipped out, and they're big boxes and they're heavy. I guess I could show it to you right here, but this one just sold a little while back. Fangoria lot. It had all kinds of vintage magazines, kung fu magazines and stuff that I didn't want to go through. I just sold them all off in one big lot together, $60 plus shipping. Do I have somebody to thank for that? I don't have the name for that. So that platform has also opened up avenues. I can't tell you the incredible feedback I've got from folks especially folks who are buying in quantities that used to have to find out ways to get, they'd have garage sales, they'd find outlets at flea markets and people, they'd give stuff away so they could pull the niche that they were really selling. And now they have these outlets and they're selling some stuff cheap over there. I will say this really quick, and I've said it in the last video, because it's resale to reseller wholesale. Stuff's selling incredible. We sold 100 things in the first week. 100 lots of things. That's just insane for this small little marketplace to do. And thank you to everybody, by the way. But every time there's a good deal on there, it goes. It just goes and goes. It's crazy. And the folks who are trying to get too much and there's no meat on the bone, those things are just sitting there. I've listed 23 things at this point, and I've sold 21 of them. And I can't tell you the freedom it's giving me space-wise, mind space, because now I feel like I can do that kind of stuff with stuff I don't want to sell, I don't want to deal with, or I got to have speed and turning over capital, and then I can focus on what I want to do. So there's another option that folks have out there now. There just seem to be so many options. Has anybody out there changed the way that they're reselling based on some of the changes that I've talked about? Or does anybody plan on making those changes in the years to come? Where do you see reselling going over the next few, I don't know, let's say the next 2 years? Do you see any more major shifts or just more down these directions? Am I right or am I wrong saying that all these multiple platforms are now exposing these same platforms to the fact that the reseller, me and you, are an extremely valuable commodity that can't just be thrown around anymore and feed higher and higher, but recruiting, in some ways, the right sellers? I mean, that's what I'm doing at this point. And my carry is 8% fees to sell on this platform over here without being a fee on the shipping. I realize that this platform doesn't work unless people, the right people, are listing the right things. And if that happens, then the buyers will come. But if the wrong people aren't there and the structure's not in place to incentivize them, the good stuff's not going to be listed there. I think all these platforms realize it. The interconnectedness that we all have now, because we all have these little tiny computers in our phones, and the connectedness through social media platforms and all kinds of other platforms. This one was in here forever. I had to dig through it, I'm not going to lie. I act like I come back here and just pick it up. It was about down here. So it's been here for a while. These Ariat jeans, and I picked them up for a couple of bucks at a sale a year ago, actually. And they finally sold $34.95 plus shipping. But it's that type of social media infrastructure that allows us to communicate, build these communities, and do these things that I think has got it to the point where we are valued. It's nice to be valued as a reseller. You guys put in a ton of work, the knowledge you've acquired over the years to be able to make these best decisions for you. I really think those who are struggling on one platform, for instance, maybe time to start exploring a few different ones, or at least just learning them so that you're not stuck with one thing over the course of time. I don't think that it's the best decision for a lot of folks to actually sell on multiple platforms, but to at least learn and to have a knowledge of it, I think is imperative for sure. And so you've heard me say before that, and I've said it in this video, I am bullish on the overall reselling market growing and growing and growing, just not necessarily growing the same rate on one platform or two platforms, just overall growing. And I've also said that the biggest threat, and I still believe this, the biggest threat to reselling isn't with higher fees on one platform or the post office raising their prices or Goodwill, being crazy like they are. Although I found something the other day. I think the biggest threat is still, it's the politician and the big moneyed interests and the big corporations that if they see a decline in anything for their businesses, they try to legislate the competition away. And we saw those efforts over the last few years, whether it was the Shop Safe Act or before that, the what was it called? The Informed Consumer Act. But I think what's going on now with more and more platforms, it used to be like eBay and a few others would get in and fight this legislation. Now there's just a myriad of different platforms that would go to bat for the reseller and stand up for our abilities and our rights and to fight against some of these ridiculous Veros. There might be some that are legitimate, but some of them just aren't. and they're abusing the system. That, to me, was and is still the biggest threat to reselling. However, I can see that reaching a tipping point as well, where there's so many people, not just the sellers, but the buyers, invested in buying and selling in these new ways, that there would be a bigger group of people who would object to this kind of stuff if they really knew what was going on behind the scenes. So I'm bullish on that being less and less of a problem. However, if things really go downhill at some point economically, that's the kind of stuff that corporations would tend to lean towards to try to solve their own financial problems. Let's hope we don't get there. And along those lines, let's face it here. You look comfy there, bro. You look comfy. Are you comfy? Huh? Say hi. That's Poncho for if you're new to the channel. This company right here, I'm sure would love to not have me selling this stuff, because it'll take sales away from their original selling, but that doesn't mean they have the right to do it. And that's where the problem lies. So this one right here, this went to the same buyer. They bought two different things, 40 total, 20 and 25, $45 plus shipping. I've got a couple more things on my list right here. Video listings. That's something I think you're going to see more and more and more of. Matter of fact, on my shopcommons.net, I made it a requirement for a video listing, because I just wanted to eliminate, there might not be great deals over there all the time. There are certainly some, but I wanted to at least eliminate the mystery factor. If you're going to buy in wholesale, at least on my side, you need to be able to see it. And I think, and they have had video listings on eBay for a long time, but they're not necessarily encouraged. They're not required. I think that people and the confidence in people to buy certain things. I mean, how many of us have bought something and we got it and we're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Usually it's some kind of piece of garbage you buy from Amazon that came from China or something. But, that stuff happens. And so I wanted to eliminate that. So video listings, just a simple automation of listing based on pictures. It's something we used to joke about 2 years ago. I remember I had Chernock and the RIN boys in here, and they were talking about, hey, and Chernock's like, this is coming. And I'm like, yeah, Carrie's talked about American arbitrage for years. And it is coming, the automation of listing. And that could be some good and bad things. The work part of it, in some ways, is a hurdle that we all put in for a lot of people that keeps them out of reselling, because, let's face it, there's a lot of lazy folks out there. They don't want to clean and take pictures and list and ship. And so having different parts of this being automated, making it easier for sellers, might not be the best thing, but I think in the end it's overall plus, because you can save time doing that stuff. I know List Perfectly, it's not an ad for them right now, but they have done their automatic picture listings. Has anybody tried that over there? Has it been successful for you? Has it increased the speed of your listings? And that's part of the cross-listing process as well for those of you who do that. So there are all kinds of new features that are helpful and that are making this better and better and better. And some of them, let's be honest, are quite scary for some of us old folks out there who don't want to change. But there's so much, because I just try to learn a little bit here and there that I can keep up with, that I'm just so excited about. I sold another one of these Wild Spirit Driftwood sets, and we got these super cheap at a sale. A whole bunch of them. Now we've sold 2 of them, already in the profit. Got a bunch left. $19.95 plus shipping. And I truly think that this is just the beginning of all of this. There's other stuff, we've talked a little bit, and I haven't got into detail because I don't know enough yet. How many of y'all are selling on Walmart's platform? That looks like it's really being ramped up. I think that is an interesting platform for resellers as well. I do think there are some people with these changes that have really been squeezed out of the market, and that's the folks who are selling new goods that are lower end electronic stuff. Maybe not even just electronics, just lower end new goods. They've had a difficult time, especially with the inception of some of this stuff like TikTok Shop and the Amazon influencers that people are doing, and those ads, I guess you want to call them, to promote certain products over there. And there's just so much going on. Some of it good, and I'd say most of it good, some of it not so good, but it's just a changing world we live in for resellers. And the good news is, I really think a lot of us, almost all of us, can now begin to find our way with all these options and kind of craft our own reselling to match whichever platform, whichever style we want to do. It's exciting out there. So maybe I'm a little too much pie in the sky, and there's a lot of naysayers out there, but I'm excited about the years to come. Because the reality is, after all these years of reselling, I'm still reselling the exact same kind of stuff I used to sell in the exact same way, and it's still working. I have sold these Carolina League baseballs literally for 20 years, and I continue to sell them. Actually, this might not even be the right one. This is a minor league baseball, Carolina League, yeah, but that's not the right one because this one's autographed, so I gotta go find the right one really quick. I know for years I'd put it in Cincinnati Picker's drawer because he would sell sporting equipment all the time. Yep, there it is. What do you know? Now it's filled with other stuff, though. I have a different sporting equipment bin back here. So there you go, Carolina League baseball. $10.95 plus shipping. It might not be a lot, but you'd be surprised how quickly these things can sell. Don't want to put it in there, I never get it out. And, you know, I paid probably 50 cents for this. Sold it for $10.95. You know, I'm making an $8 profit on it. And it's super small and super quick. Turner's out here playing some baseball with his buddy. So I figured I'd come out here and do the Commonwealth comedy so I don't interrupt your fun. Do you remember your joke?
Oh, what type of music do the Pilgrims listen to?
What kind of music do the Pilgrims listen to? What do we, I don't know. What do you got?
Plymouth Rock.
All right, get back to playing, bud.
Bye.
Let me throw a quick thank you in to Robert and to Iris for sending me this very kind message. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for watching both Commonwealth Picker and Commonwealth Flipper. And check out, they sent me Tupperware. They said this is one that they've heard me talk about. I love these, getting these in pairs and selling them off to folks who camp and stuff. They actually sell pretty good. And a cup, check these out. Little wallet type things, and Snoopy's my favorite. The Tupperware, these are all so clean too. I really like it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the support. All right, y'all, Reagan is out here one more day in this, let's hope.
Well, and she's, the crutches.
Yep, one more day. All right, what do you got for a thank you here?
Keith got a ornament.
He's got a Reagan ornament. I didn't even know he still had them listed in there. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye. Don't forget to get your stickers at CommonwealthPicker.com. All
right, y'all. This wasn't on the agenda, but before I close here and make a couple statements at the end, I wanted to mention something because I have talked about shopcommons.net, and I'm having some difficulty with processing all the applications. There are so many, and I've rejected far more than I've accepted because I want people who understand kind of the reseller to reseller mentality. And the fact that you can't put stuff over there and expect it to sell to resellers unless there's money to be made. And a lot of people just don't have that in them, right? They're trying to squeeze every nickel and dime out of every single thing. And you end up with just stacks and stacks of stuff. And you just never can cut bait with stuff and never focus on different things. And that's just the way a lot of people are. I mean, I'm the same way too. Who wants to give away, you know, all kinds of merchandise that you could make money on to somebody else for less of a profit unless it really makes sense for you? So I just want to mention this really quick. If you have heard me talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it forever all the time. I'll just mention a sale or something every single time I make a sale. But I wanted to just say three things. Don't waste your time applying unless you do three things. Just make sure, and I've got them written down here, you've already read through the community guidelines and you state that in your application. You have watched the video about it over on Garage Sale Nation. Just type in Garage Sale Nation, like Commons. I think you should be able to find it on that channel. I did a video over there. And state that you've watched that in the application. And describe the type of wholesale lots that you'd like to sell to see if that matches this model. This isn't for everybody, y'all. It isn't. It's to serve a certain segment of the reselling community as buyers, and to serve a certain segment of the reseller community as sellers who have massive quantities. So, and that's really all it's for. It's not for just everybody. So, at any rate, I just thought I'd mention that really quickly at the end of this video, and then ask for your perspective. Is reselling going to be better 2 years from now than it is today? Are there going to be more unique challenges than there are today, or more opportunity than there are today? So thank y'all for listening to me as always. Poncho thanks you too as he takes his nap. What are you doing? The boys are out there playing and you're not playing with them. That's not like you, Poncho. You're getting old, huh? An old puppy now. He definitely isn't old. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope your summer slowdown isn't too slow. And I hope you're getting some sales here and there. We appreciate you stopping by, and I can't wait to see you next time.